going to start by showing a quick video.
In the days when our Navy was young and the ship was the pride of the fleet, they gazed out at her in wonder, making old sailors' hearts skip a beat. Well, the ships have gone through some changes, and the roads have changed a bit too. You'll be wet, you'll be homesick and frightened, but the pride of the fleet will be you. Today's pride of the fleet is you. Today's pride of the fleet is you. You'll be wet, you'll be homesick and frightened, but you'll know that you've got a top job. Today's pride of the fleet is you.
So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I wanted to show you that video because when I was in high school, that was an ad for Navy recruiting that was shown regularly on TV. And it seems really daggy now, but and it also has a notable lack of females in it. But even despite that, it excited me, and I thought that I would like to be wet, homesick and frightened, and that I could be the pride of the fleet. So when I was in year 11, I went along to a recruiting office here in Melbourne and said, I want to join the Navy and I want to go to the Defence Force Academy in Canberra, and I want to study mechanical engineering. So here on this page is a photo of me when I first joined the Navy. And also on the page is a photo of some senior ranking female engineers that are still in the Navy. And the one that's shown on the right, far right in that bottom photo, her name is Commodore Kath Richards. She was one of my main inspirations in my early years in the Navy. And when I was going through recruiting in year 12, she was in 4th year of engineering at ADFA. And I was told in recruiting that in her year level there were originally 20 Navy engineers that commenced the degree. And 4 years later she was the only engineer that graduated from that degree. So that's made it sound really tough, but that also didn't deter me. It made me even more keen for the challenge to go to ADFA and do engineering. So Kath was a bit of a trailblazing female, which she still is in the Navy, and I've looked up to her since then. So when I was 18, on the day of my 18th birthday actually, I joined the Navy to see the world and went away and went to ADFA. And even though there was no females in that video, females didn't serve on any of our Navy ships until after 1985. Despite that, when I joined in 1990, or when I went through recruiting in 1992, I was actually recruited under affirmative action. So the Navy enlisted 10 mechanical engineers in my year level, and they had a quota where 2 of those had to be female. So to give you an idea, at the time at Monash Uni, about 2% of the mechanical engineering students were female. So for the Navy to recruit 20% was a proactive move. But actually what happened was the Navy recruited 5 females and 5 males in those 10 people. So by having a quota, they actually were able to recruit more female engineers. And also in my class in the Navy, in my year level, there was about 30% female. So you can see these photos are from my first couple of years at ADFA, and there were plenty of females. So I wasn't much of a trailblazer compared to Kath Richards. So what followed my time at ADFA was another 11 years in the Navy. So I did 15 years in total. And as a young engineer in the Navy, I had a number of different postings. About 18 months was the longest that I stayed in any one position. And that wasn't by luck or by choice. That was actually the Navy's planned career continuum for me as an engineer. So it was sort of like a grad program, but the Navy's, that program is designed to last for about 10 or 15 years after you finish your engineering degree. So in that time I did a lot of training, I gained more qualifications, and I learned how to be an engineer on a warship in operational conditions. And the Navy also expected us to do a range of shore postings, so I did some in maintenance and repair, contract management, training and logistics. And I was guided and supported each step of the way, and was able to become an adaptable, multi-skilled engineer in that way. Also, right from the beginning, as an officer in the Navy, as a midshipman, I was an officer, and I was considered to be a leader, or I was a leader. And from my first posting at sea as a 22-year-old, I was leading and managing a team of sailors. So the Navy also invested in leadership training for us through that first part of our career, or they invest in it throughout anybody's Navy career. And we even had like a task book or a competency book where we had to tick off leadership tasks as well as engineering tasks. So I grew my capability in those skills as well as my engineering skills. And I didn't really realise at the time how important or how significant some of those personnel management issues that I had to deal with when I was at sea, especially managing. We managed the sailors' personal as well as their professional lives when we were out at sea away from Australia, and there were sometimes some challenging things that we had to deal with, but I didn't realise how significant that was when I was in the Navy. So also when I was in the Navy, I did lots of fun things. So like Justin and David said, there was lots of opportunity for me to do things outside of work, or while I was at work. I got to travel to different countries. I got to work with people from foreign navies. I got to play sport, like go in the Navy ski team. I also did different community projects in different ports, like there's a photo there of me doing some mosaic tiling in a kindergarten in Darwin. And we also did lots of ceremonial things like marching, parades and cocktail parties as well. So I would second what Justin and David said about really having as much fun as you can while you're going through your career, and participating in lots of different opportunities as well. I also got to do some pretty cool engineering stuff while I was in the Navy, such as docking ships and changing out significant bits of infrastructure like the diesel engine and the gas turbine engine that are shown in the photos there. And also the photo of me that's there is me managing the fueling of a warship, which is something I had to do regularly. I always thought that was pretty cool that we took about 330,000 litres of fuel on the ship when we filled her up, and we could do that in about 10 minutes. So it was pretty hairy, fast pumping fuel into the ship, trying not to spill any on the other side. And I also got to do lots of things like project managing refits, where I was managing multiple contractors to do lots of different maintenance and renewal tasks on board the warships. So in those postings, I found that managing maintenance and renewal activities, or asset management, was what I really enjoyed doing the most. And when I first joined the Navy, I thought I'd be like those senior ranking females that I showed on the first page of my presentation, that I could make it to maybe Commodore or even Admiral. And I'd always been taught that I could be whatever I wanted and that I should dream big and aim high. And I loved the time that I spent in the Navy, and I think I did well, and I was recognised and rewarded for my hard work. And I got promoted to the rank of Lieutenant Commander in minimum time, but so that took me 15 years to get to that point, and I could see that maybe Admiral was still possible, was still a long way away. But things change, and in my mid-20s I got married, and then when I was nearly 30, my husband and I decided that we would like to have children one day or soon. So that's what we planned, and we started our family. And I thought that I could still have children and continue my career in the Navy, but I didn't think too much about the logistics of that. And so over the next 3 years, while I had my 2 young children, my view changed a bit, which I hadn't expected it to. And also my husband, even though he was supportive of me continuing my career and developing, he wasn't really keen on staying at home with 2 little kids while I went off to Sydney or Perth to go to sea on a warship. So that was when I realised that my career needed to be guided by I guess, more serious decisions than where I could travel or how much fun I could have or where I might get my next promotion. I had to think about my family and the location that I was in, and they became the most important factors in my decision making, I guess. So it was at that point that I reached a bit of a crossroads in my career in the Navy. And I'd also been in my role at that time in the Navy for about 4 years. So I was really ready to do something new, so I wanted to make a decision. So just before I got out of the Navy, I started looking for a new role, and I thought, I'm an engineer, I'm going to get an engineering job. And I've done heaps of different engineering jobs in the Navy, so I thought I could do just about anything. But I didn't know any engineers that weren't in the Navy, and I had no network, and I had really very little idea about what to look for in a civilian organisation. So, yeah, that's quite different. Anyway, a couple of weeks before I got out of the Navy, I did get a job with SKM, and I had a project here in the city that I was working on. And so I worked in that role for about 3 months, and then at the time I had a little 2- and 3-year-old child at home, and I was living down on the Mornington Peninsula. And I realised that it wasn't much fun travelling up to the city and back each day and not seeing my children very regularly. So that is when I began my career in local government. So I spent 8 years working at my local council, which was the Mornington Peninsula Shire. So I was only 5 minutes away from home, and that was really great. And I had a really good time. I worked on a really wide variety of projects while I was there in a couple of different roles as well. And through that period, I learned a lot about what I liked doing and what was important to me. And it really helped me to start figuring out what I wanted for the rest of my career or for the next part of my career. So some of those things are listed here. I really enjoyed doing things that were beneficial for the community, and that became really important and satisfying for me, especially when it was within my own community as well. I enjoyed collaborating with other members of the community and also with other organisations like Public Transport Victoria, where I'm working at. And the stuff that I did was really tangible, had lots of visibility, and that was really satisfying for me and from my family perspective as well, because my kids could actually see what I was doing and talk about the roundabout that I was building or the playground that I was talking to the community about, that sort of thing. And they could also come along with me to community events and be involved with my work a bit as well, which was really satisfying. So it was really a comfortable place for me to work while I had 2 young children, and it was also rewarding from a career perspective as well. And I also had lots of opportunities to work on different projects and different engineering things as well. And also Mornington Peninsula Shire was really proactive and innovative in looking for different ways to solve problems and work with the community, which I enjoyed as well. But in my last year at Mornington Peninsula Shire, I was ready to be promoted to the next level of management, and I was acting in a management position. However, when the position was filled, I didn't get the position, and because I had been acting in the position, I was a bit shocked by that. And I probably hadn't prepared as well as I should have, because I just assumed I was doing the role and I thought I was doing a good job. Anyway, so it was sort of the first time in my career where I thought I worked really hard, but I hadn't been recognised or rewarded for that. So anyway, after I got out of the shock, over the initial shock, I thought, what am I going to do now? So the first thing I did was enrolled in an MBA and started studying again to sort of help me refresh my thinking. And then I also started looking for another job. So this time I thought, I got a much better idea of what I wanted to do, and so I was really quickly able to find another role as a manager in local government, which was good. And that was at Glenara City Council. But while I was considering the type of position that I wanted and the type of work I wanted to do, I hadn't really still thought about the type of organisation that I wanted to work. So really by this time I'd still only worked for the Navy and Mornington Peninsula Shire. So I fitted into both of those places easily, and I hadn't really thought much about culture or fit before, because it hadn't been something that had been a problem for me. But when I went to Glenara City Council, I found that they weren't as innovative or strategic as what I was used to and what I liked, and I found that really restricting, and I didn't enjoy that environment. So I only spent a year there, and then I moved to Yarra Valley Water. So that's my connection with the water industry. I moved to Yarra Valley Water, and Yarra Valley Water, you probably heard, has a great culture, and it's a great place to work, and I felt that I really did easily fit in there and quickly adapt to that environment. And Yarra Valley Water has also got a nice amount of innovation and change, so that suited me well as well. But from a leadership perspective, I still wasn't able to think as strategically as I wanted to be able to. So I only spent a year again at Yarra Valley Water, and then I moved to my new position at Public Transport Victoria. So I've been at PTV now for 6 months, and so far it's providing me with a really good mix of what I wanted from a culture and leadership perspective. So what I've learned in my last few years in the different positions I've had is that there's a really good transferability in skills, particularly in engineering, but also in the types of industries that I've been in, from local government and water and transport. Holding the customer at the centre of what we do is really the most important thing in all of those industries, so that's a common element. And I find that being able to take a place-based approach or an integrated approach and think about all the different aspects of projects is really interesting, and I think that's becoming more and more important in each of those industries as well. And I've also found that, as I said, strategic thinking and team leadership are also really important to me, and that's been a focus for me in finding a new role, and also I'm hoping that's going to put me in good stead for the future as well. And being aware of culture and engagement and change management and accountability and those sort of issues in an organisation is really important. So I really recommend to you to take notice of those things as you work for different organisations as well. And the more organisations you work in, I think the more recognisable things, those sort of management issues will be to you as well. And I really recommend, don't be scared to try to move to a new industry or a new organisation, because it really does help you expand your knowledge and understanding of how organisations work. So this is another aspect, like Lachlan said, I've been involved in the Peninsula Transport Assist organisation, so I'd really encourage you to go out and get involved in different aspects away from your work as well, so they could be related to your work but not part of your core roles and responsibilities. And you can do that in lots of ways inside your own organisation, but also external to the organisation. You could even become a member of a committee like the Young Water Professionals for the Water Association. I've got MSG written there, you're probably going, what the hell does that mean? I thought, my husband used to call me MSG, and I thought it was some romantic thing like my special girl. But, but actually what he's talking about is the food additive that's in everything, because he thinks I'm involved in too many things and I just concentrate on my own job instead of pouring vegetables. But I've found that those extra things that I have done have really provided me with lots of different experience and opportunities to do different things and to keep being interested in and challenged in what I do as well. Sorry, Lachlan's trying to harden me up, I still got okay, so what's next for me? Someone said to me recently, what are you going to do next? And I was like, well, I've been working for 25 years now, that's a pretty long time. And then like, oh my God, I've still probably got another 25 years to go. So I hadn't really thought about that long in the future. And I think it is really hard to look more than about 5 years ahead in anything you do, and things are going to change in that time anyway, probably. So So I want to stay in my current role hopefully for a few more years and then look for another opportunity after that. I also I know that I like learning stuff, and most people like learning, so I want to be able to keep doing that. And I've been doing some mentoring, so I'd like to keep doing that as well. And these are my kids. I had a photo of them on an earlier slide when they were a bit littler, but this is how old they are now. So I really like to, now they're in secondary school, be able to try and influence them and inspire them to make sure that they can plan for a career that's challenging and rewarding as well. And finally, this is my advice to you, which is to, especially I think while you're young professionals now, to look for opportunities, try new things and make the most of everything you can. And try and be engaged and enjoy yourself at work. Sometimes you have to make your own luck or your own happiness at work. So if you don't feel like you're getting support, go out and find something that will make you happy as well. And I also recommend you to try and learn about the business or the organisation as well as about your role, because that really puts you in a better position from a employability perspective, and also when you're thinking about your next career move. I said don't be worried about changing direction, because things change, and what you think now, your goals and your outlook and your personality and your strengths, they will all change over your career. So it's good to dream big, but yeah, set small achievable goals and keep working towards them, but don't be too disheartened if things change. And this is probably my biggest thing that I believe in, is that if things haven't worked out, it will work out in the end, and if it hasn't yet, then keep going, because you're not at the end. Okay, and the last couple of things I've got there is about building your tribe. So one of the things that I probably haven't been as good at and I need to still work on is getting more advice from other people about what I should do with my career moves, who I should listen to, and maybe that's something that I'd recommend to you, to find people that you can talk to about your career and to get advice and hear different opinions, and that will help you with your decision making. And a mentor through a mentoring program can help with that, but it might be just your family, just to make sure you talk to people about things. And then my final thing is just, if you ever have to talk at a career mapping event, it's good if you've got some notes about what you did in your career so you can remember, because I've done lots of things, but when I was trolling through the photos, I hadn't labelled them very well, and it was hard to find good snippets to tell you about. So I'd recommend that it's a good idea to reflect on what you do, to record what you do, and that will help you prepare for interviews and prepare career episode reports and things like that in the future as well. So it's good to take some time to do that too. And that's it. Thank you.